Hi, I'm Lisa from Trails Edge Astrology, and I am here today to talk a little bit more about the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction and how it has shown up through the years. So this is a practice that my friend Sarah A. McNeil calls retrodiction, and I love it. Um, prediction. Prediction is like looking forward and thinking about what will happen, but retrodiction is when we look back and when we look at the pattern time these planets come together over time, what has happened in our lives. So I'm going to walk you through my life and give you the dates that these two planets have interacted significantly, and then I encourage you to think back over your life and what has happened. um, we're going to go back to the 80s because I am in my early 50s, and that's as far back as I can go, and remember things. But you may be younger than that and you can't go back to the 80s, or you um, may be older than that and you could go back further. But nonetheless, we're going to start in 1983. As a reminder, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction happens on Saturday, and Uranus is our planet of liberation and freedom seeking, and really like that electric energy. Jupiter is where we find faith, where we find God or spirit or universe or whatever you want to, higher self, whatever word you want to use. It's about truth. It's about values. It's about abundance and expansion. And so yeah, when Jupiter and Uranus come together, it is this ability to take a quantum leap, this ability to really um, for your soul to really project forward, really maybe break down some of the calcified places and really set yourself free in some ways. It can feel totally chaotic. Some of you are probably not having a really good time right now, um, and that's fair. Uh, know that whatever's happening is happening for the greater good, and know that you may have some other things going on in your life and in your transits that are impacting this transit. Nonetheless, this is a seeding moment that will play out at least over the next 14 years of our lives and will lead to some real emancipation and real propulsion to be more authentically who you are, um, if that is what you're interested in, and if you work with the energy. All right, so let us start our retrodiction. So we're going to start in 1983 when Jupiter and Uranus came together in Sagittarius. Now, I personally have a lot of planets. I have got Neptune, my moon, and Jupiter are all in Sagittarius in my second house. And second house is about values and self-worth and money, finances, that kind of thing. And interestingly, in 1983, I I got glasses, and um, I didn't realize I couldn't see before that. I just thought the teacher had bad handwriting. But I really, I struggled in school. Like at home, I was reading like I remember I was reading All Creatures Great and Small. If you're old enough to remember that series, loved James Herriot and all of that. But at school, I had a tough time. I was not a great student. I just didn't. Some of it I think was I couldn't see the board. Um, but I was tested for dyslexia and all sorts of things. Um, and that was what it is. I don't know when I stopped being able to see the board, but this is when I got glasses. This is when I went to the eye doctor and I got glasses, and that really changed my sense of self worth and how I thought of myself. And and for those of you who know me personally, like I'm a I am a perpetual student. I will always be taking classes. I will always be learning. I will always be reading. I just love that stuff. And so, but that really started at this point, that I really started to think of myself as being scholarly, and went on to do the things that I did. So 1983, the seeding moment was me finally being able to see. The Jupiter and Uranus opposed each other in 1989 and 1990. And this happened in my third and ninth house, which is the house of communications and information and beliefs and higher education. And so this was when I graduated from high school and when I started college. And And this was when I decided to go into environmental science. I'm one of the rare sorts, and I'm not saying this is how anybody should be, but I knew I knew graduating from high school what I wanted to go into college to do, and I went into college. I studied environmental science, and for the last 30 years, that's what I have done. Um, Obviously, I'm making the transition. We'll talk about that. That as it comes up, that shows up in this Jupiter-Uranus space as well. But this was when I made that commitment and started college, which is so apropos for a third and ninth house transit. Then in 1997, Jupiter and Uranus came together in Aquarius. And for me, Aquarius rules my fourth house. And it's also my North Node is in Aquarius. And this is the year I got married. We rented our first house, and then we're making preparations to buy our first house. We bought our first house in 1998, and so that was a big transformational year, a big change, and a big leap of faith was to do this. I didn't necessarily ever I wasn't somebody who necessarily needed or wanted to be partnered, but I found this person, and almost 27 years later, he's still my partner. Anyway, so that was 1997 and what the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction then seeded in my life. Then in 2003, Jupiter and Uranus opposed each other in Virgo and Pisces. So Pisces is in my fifth house, and the fifth house is the house of children. It can be other things, but it is traditionally the house of children and pregnancy. And in 2003, we conceived our first child, so who was born in 2004. So again, life-changing, fantastic, terrifying, all of those things that birthing children are and bringing for us. The next time Jupiter and Uranus came together was in 2011, and that was also in Pisces. So this was in my fifth house, and this is a little harder to pinpoint, which Pisces is hard to pinpoint. It is nebulous. But in 2011, my brother-in-law died unexpectedly, and that was kind of definitely a mortality reality check. He was in his 60s, so he was not old, and it was not expected. He had a heart attack, and the fifth house rules the heart. And anyway, just an interesting thing that happened at this point. And yeah, for what it's worth. The first cat that I had as an adult also died this year. And again, for those of you who know me, I'm a big cat lover. And so his name was Eldon, and he died in 2011. And that was also very very, very life changing. He was not my first cat to die as an adult. We had one that had died a few years before that, but he was my first cat. So anyway, so that's what I can think of in 2011 related to fifth house. I was also taking some really big risks in my job at that point. And some stepping into some bigger roles, and the fifth house can be about risk taking and those sorts of things. So anyway, 2011 is less like there are things, but it's less like, oh, that was definitely the change point. Although now that I'm saying that might have been the change point. I just didn't know it at that point. So then in 2017, Jupiter and Uranus came together in Libra and Aries. So this is my 6th and 12th house, which is the house of work and service. And whereas I was saying in 2011, I was making some big job changes. In 2017, the job I had that I loved really fell apart, and I made a really significant job change. I got out of the role that I had actually been in one way or another since about 2000. And I really shifted gears into a different direction. And honestly, this this 2017 opposition was, I would say, what sealed the deal for me becoming a professional astrologer. I wasn't saying it at that point, but I knew I loved astrology and I was studying astrology. But it was kind of that seeding moment, that shift in job. Um, I have called it a dark night of the soul. It was not an easy time in my life. But that was kind of this seeding moment for, like, there's a whole world out there. Like, yes, what I'm doing is fine, but there's a whole other thing out there. So I think that was that aspect. And again, in my house of work and daily habits, I also have a fair amount of Aries energy in my chart. So significant that way. And then we come to 2024, which is right now. This is what's happening on Saturday. They are coming together in Taurus. And this is in my 7th house, which is of committed relationships. And I mentioned that my husband and I got married in 97, where there was the Jupiter-Uranus aspect. And in 2024, we are starting to think about what being empty nesters is going to look like. And we've really been having some fascinating, exciting conversations about, what we want that to look like, how we want to, make sure that, that we have something to that we have something together. I know a lot of people, when their kids leave home, this is tough, and it's, I don't want I have a 14-year-old, and I definitely do not want him to leave home. I mean, I want him to go to college. I want him to do all those things, but it's going to be a hard transition. But we're starting to have just some really, like, out of the box ideas, like, what if we did this, or what if we did that? And we have the advantage. We were married for 7 years before our first child was born, so we had a lot of history together before, and we will have a lot of history together after. But this has just been a super interesting, I knew this was coming, but I didn't know how it would shape up. And it's just been in the last couple of weeks. It's just like the ideas are popping. And so we'll see. We don't know, right? We're just starting. This is the seeding moment. What will come of all of it? In 7 years, I will be able to report back on what kind of crazy ideas we act on, and which ones we don't. So finally, I just wanted to put up the next Jupiter-Uranus opposition is in Sagittarius and Gemini in 2031. And who knows what will happen at that point. For me, it's in my 2nd and 8th house, which is value, money, karmic contracts. It's conjunct my natal Jupiter, and I'll have what's called a Jupiter return at that point, which is a very nice seeding moment in and of itself. So that's kind of exciting. Like, what will happen? I will be 59 that year. So yeah. So who knows? Who knows? We'll find out. Stay tuned. But looking back over this, over my my trajectory, potentially could help shed some light on this. Who knows? And thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this was useful. I really encourage you to do this for yourself. I think it's a lot of fun to look back over the patterns and over how things showed up in your life. These are big enough transits that probably it showed up in some way for you, even if it wasn't directly impacting something. And yeah, please like and subscribe. It helps me. It helps the channel grow. It helps me know if you like this content, if this is interesting and something you'd like me to keep doing. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Have a good day. Talk to you soon.